I'm Tony Jaa from Thailand and play Decha. This is really important for me. I can inspire from the Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and Jet Li.
The rise, fall, and legacy of Tony Jaa, the man who defied gravity, then disappeared. I'm Tona from Thailand. I play DEA. This is really important for me. I was inspired by Jaa, BR, and J double quote. That's how one young fan once expressed his admiration for Tony Jaa, a name once whispered with reverence in the world of martial arts cinema. At his peak, Jaa wasn't just a martial artist. He was a cinematic phenomenon. With every impossible stunt, every bone-crunching knee strike, he redefined what audiences expected from action heroes. He didn't just fight. He flew. He danced. He defied gravity. But then, just as fast as he rose, he vanished. What happened to Tony Jaa? Was it burnout? Was it betrayal? Or was it something more personal, more tragic? What could drive a man who was destined to be the next global icon of martial arts cinema to step away from it all? The answer is more heartbreaking and human than fans ever imagined. Humble beginnings in rural Thailand. Born Tachakorn Yirum in the Surin province of Thailand, Tony Jaa was the son of rice farmers Ren Chipe and Thongde Yirum. Raised in a modest village, his early life revolved around simplicity, hard work, and cultural tradition. But Tony harbored bigger dreams. From a young age, he was captivated by the screen legends of martial arts: Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Jet Li. He didn't just admire them, he studied them. At temple fairs and on flickering VHS tapes, he watched in awe, then retreated to the fields to mimic their moves, leaps, kicks, punches, acrobatics, over and over until they felt like muscle memory. To Jaa, martial arts wasn't just about combat. It was storytelling through motion. It was beauty, discipline, and spirituality combined. Formal training began at age 10 when he joined a local Muay Thai program at a temple. There were no modern gyms, no advanced equipment, just raw determination. In time, his skill drew local attention, and he began competing in traditional Muay Thai matches. But he never aspired to be a ring fighter. He wanted more. He wanted the screen. Years in the shadows. A stuntman's grit. Jaa's entry into cinema came when he caught the eye of action director and stunt choreographer Pana Rittikrai. Recognizing the raw, unpolished brilliance in the young martial artist, Rittikrai invited Tony to join his stunt team. What followed was a grueling 14-year apprenticeship behind the scenes. Jaa doubled for major stars, performed dangerous stunts for commercials, including a daring jump onto the back of a moving elephant, and trained in a wide range of martial arts disciplines: Muay Thai, Taekwondo, Judo, Aikido. Under Rittikrai's mentorship, he didn't just learn how to fight, he learned how to craft action that told a story. More than that, Jaa mastered the art of film itself. He studied angles, learned choreography, and refined his movements to make them cinematic. His ability to combine traditional martial arts with modern filmmaking techniques, all without the aid of CGI or wires, would soon become his signature and his revolution. Explosion onto the global stage. In 2003, Tony Jaa went from stuntman to superstar with the release of Ong-Bak, Muay Thai Warrior. Audiences around the world were stunned. There were no wires, no body doubles, no special effects. Just Jaa, flipping over cars, leaping between buildings, and landing punishing blows with terrifying grace. He wasn't acting, he was unleashing. The film was a game changer. Ong-Bak introduced the world to a brutal, bone-breaking version of Muay Thai never seen on screen. Tony became a global sensation overnight. Then came Tom Yum Goong, released in the US as The Protector in 2005, which raised the bar even higher. In one now iconic scene, Jaa ascends a spiral staircase in a single 4-minute tracking shot, fighting dozens of opponents without a single cut. It was physical cinema at its most raw and relentless. Suddenly, comparisons to Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li felt inevitable. Jaa was hailed as the future of martial arts cinema, an heir to the genre's golden lineage, but with a gritty realism all his own. Hollywood called. Even Jackie Chan wanted him for Rush Hour 3. The world was his. But then, just as quickly, it began to unravel. Cracks beneath the surface. At the height of his fame, internal tensions threatened to derail everything. The once strong bond between Jaa and his mentor Rittikrai began to fracture. Creative disagreements and behind-the-scenes struggles created deep rifts between the two men. One of the most painful casualties of that fallout was the shelving of a much-anticipated project, Sword, which fans never got to see. Forged in the bayou. Lessons beyond the hunt. Jacob Landry spent countless hours at his father's side, not only learning how to hunt, but how to read the water like a map, how to track the faintest movements of wildlife, and how to endure the unforgiving moods of the Louisiana wilderness. It wasn't just education, it was immersion. From the beginning, Jacob was a curious and eager student. But, like any child mastering a complex and dangerous craft, he made his share of mistakes. In one now-beloved anecdote, Jacob recalled his first time trying to steer the family's fishing boat. Nervous and excited, he lost control and accidentally sent several expensive fishing rods overboard. For many fathers, that moment might have sparked frustration. But Troy Landry wasn't most fathers. Instead of scolding, he simply told Jacob to try again. That quiet encouragement became a foundational part of Jacob's character. These moments, simple on the surface, instilled something far deeper: resilience, confidence, and a profound understanding that failure was not the enemy. It was the teacher. As Troy shaped Jacob's skills and instincts out in the swamps back at home, Bernita Landry was shaping his character. Bernita's influence. The quiet strength of a Southern matriarch. Bernita Landry, Jacob's mother, wasn't out on the boats wrestling gators. But that doesn't mean she played a smaller role. Far from it. While Troy was building a legacy in the water, Bernita was anchoring the family on land. She brought order to a world of chaos, warmth to days filled with grit, and a moral compass that never wavered, even as television fame later changed everything around them. She taught her children discipline, kindness, and the kind of strength that doesn't announce itself. Jacob has frequently credited her as the steady force that kept their world intact during the hardest seasons, financially, emotionally, and spiritually. Family dinners were sacred in the Landry household. No matter how long the day had been, how harsh the sun, or how many hours they'd spent waist-deep in murky waters, they always sat down together. These weren't lavish meals, but they were rich in something more important: togetherness. Laughter, teasing, storytelling, and reflections on the day. These simple dinners became the glue that held them close. For Jacob, those evenings meant as much as any successful hunting trip. They taught him that true strength wasn't just in conquering the outside world, it was in showing up for the people you loved, day after day. Hard lessons from a harsh land. Despite what romanticized TV footage might suggest, Jacob's childhood was no fantasy adventure. The swamps of Louisiana are stunning, but they're also brutal. That landscape doesn't offer second chances lightly. It tests you. The air is thick with humidity. Mosquitoes bite relentlessly. Sudden downpours can turn calm waters into chaos in minutes. And always lurking, often unseen, are the alligators. To grow up there is to learn how to stay alert without panicking, how to endure discomfort without complaint, and how to adapt quickly or get left behind. Jacob faced these realities daily, and rather than run from them, he leaned in. Each hardship, each challenge, only made him stronger. The heat didn't break him, it hardened him. The threats didn't intimidate him, they sharpened his instincts. And with every close call or hard day, his respect for nature deepened. He never saw the swamp as something to dominate. He understood that to live there, you had to become part of it. You had to move with its rhythms, listen to its warnings, and never, ever assume you had the upper hand. A bond with the land. Even from a young age, Jacob stood out for his deep connection to the world around him. While many children might view their environment as background noise or terrain to be conquered, Jacob saw the swamp as a living, breathing entity. It wasn't just where he lived, it was who he was. He learned to distinguish the subtle changes in water levels, to recognize which birds signaled rain, and to predict gator movement by the shifting patterns of fish. These were skills passed down by generations, but also honed through his own quiet observation and natural intuition. That bond with the bayou would follow Jacob into adulthood and, eventually, onto national television. It would also help explain why, after years of fame, he would choose to step back, not out of defeat, but out of devotion to the life that raised him. In Jacob's world, the land doesn't just provide, it teaches, it disciplines, and above all, it humbles. The swamp as a mentor, lessons that transcend the wild. Jacob Landry never viewed the Louisiana swamplands as just a place to work. To him, it was alive. Every rustling leaf, every distant bird call, every splash beneath the water's surface. It all meant something. The swamp spoke in a language few understood, and Jacob listened intently. A subtle shift in the wind could signal an oncoming storm. A sudden stillness in the air might mean a predator was nearby. Even the way the fish darted under the boat told a story about the balance of the ecosystem. The swamp teaches you, he's been known to say. You just have to pay attention. This wasn't poetry. It was his truth. Long before television crews rolled their cameras or the Landry name became a household brand, Jacob was learning life through nature's own curriculum. And for him, those were the lessons that truly mattered. The swamp wasn't just a setting. It was his school, his sanctuary, and in many ways, his soul. Tradition etched in time. Jacob's upbringing was never about chasing fame. It was about learning a rhythm, one passed down through generations. In the Landry household, heritage wasn't discussed in speeches or written on plaques. It was lived daily. Louisiana knows the Landrys not only for their hunting expertise, but for their deep commitment to preserving a way of life. Alligator hunting for them isn't a spectacle. It's a tradition, one that requires patience, respect, and an understanding of nature's delicate balances. The family doesn't hunt for sport. They do it to feed their families, to protect the ecosystem, and to honor the legacy of those who came before them. Jacob's childhood reflected this ethos. He was taught to value hard work, humility, and reverence for the land. Fame and recognition would come later, but by then his foundation was already set. Nothing about Jacob Landry's character was constructed for television. It was shaped by the mud, the sweat, and the quiet wisdom of his environment. From bayou to broadcast, the unintended star. When Swamp People first premiered, it was Troy Landry who stole the spotlight. Rightfully dubbed the king of the swamp, Troy's larger-than-life presence, sharp instincts, and unmistakable Cajun drawl made him a natural on screen. Jacob, by contrast, played a quieter role. He wasn't the loudest voice or the boldest personality, but from the very first episodes, viewers took notice. There was something about the way he handled himself, calm, steady, unflinching, that set him apart. His primary job initially was to support his father during the gator hunts. But make no mistake, this wasn't a sidekick role. On the water, Jacob had critical responsibilities. Steering the boat through tight canals, navigating unpredictable currents, keeping a level head when adrenaline surged. These were not tasks for the inexperienced or the easily rattled. One wrong move and a simple hunt could turn into a deadly situation. Jacob never flinched. A calm in the chaos, While his father wrestled with alligators, it was Jacob who kept the vessel steady. He piloted through swaths of thick marsh, dodging cypress stumps and submerged hazards with the ease of someone who'd done it 1,000 times, and he had. His movements were economical, his judgment sharp. Whether dealing with shifting tides or a thrashing gator in tow, Jacob's focus never wavered. And that's exactly why fans gravitated toward him. In an environment known for chaos, he was the calm. In a show that often highlighted danger, he radiated control. His understated presence became a powerful contrast to the intensity around him, and audiences recognized that quiet strength. They saw someone authentic, not someone chasing a spotlight, but someone doing what needed to be done with skill and purpose. As the series progressed, Jacob's role naturally expanded. Viewers wanted more of him, and producers took notice. Still, he never sought center stage. Even as the cameras leaned in closer, he remained grounded. His identity always rooted not in fame, but in family, in tradition, and in the swamp itself. The foundation beneath the fame. Jacob's journey into television wasn't the result of ambition. It was the continuation of a life already being lived with integrity and passion. Swamp People didn't create his legacy. It simply gave the rest of the world a window into it. Behind every scene he appeared in, behind every successful gator hunt, were years of experience, deep family values, and a profound love for the land. The quiet lessons from his youth, the fishing rods lost, the boats steered imperfectly, the dinners shared after long days. These were the real reasons Jacob Landry succeeded. He didn't just grow up in the swamp, he became part of it. And in doing so, he became something far more enduring than a reality TV star. He became a symbol of what it means to live in tune with the land, to value legacy over celebrity, and to remain true to who you are, regardless of who's watching. A spotlight. He never sought Jacob Landry's role on Swamp People, may have started in the background, but it didn't stay there for long. As the series gathered momentum and millions of viewers tuned in to watch the raw, rugged realities of gator hunting in Louisiana, Jacob's presence became increasingly central. But it wasn't because he demanded the spotlight. Quite the opposite. There was no showboating, no exaggerated sound bites, no sense that Jacob was trying to entertain. What audiences saw was a man doing what he'd always done, only now with boom mics overhead and camera lenses inches from his face. That authenticity became one of his greatest strengths. In a genre often accused of manufactured drama, Jacob stood out as unmistakably real. His movements were methodical, his reactions honest. He didn't play a character, he simply was himself. And in doing so, he connected with viewers across the country in a way few reality TV stars ever do. Earning his place, one hunt at a time. As the series progressed, Jacob's responsibilities on the water expanded. He transitioned from support to leadership, coordinating hunts, managing gear, and taking charge in high-pressure situations. Viewers watched as he moved from son and apprentice to partner and co-leader. The dynamic between him and Troy remained a focal point, steady, warm, and rooted in mutual trust. Their bond was never overstated. It didn't need to be. Their ability to work in near silence, each instinctively knowing what the other was thinking, spoke volumes. When they did speak, whether to share a laugh or reflect on a tough catch, it was always genuine. These moments, often simple and understated, became some of the show's most powerful. They revealed not just the danger of the hunt, but the humanity behind it. For viewers, those interactions were golden. They turned Swamp People from a niche reality series into a story about family, tradition, and the enduring ties that bind us, even in the most extreme environments. The double-edged sword of fame. But with recognition came a different kind of challenge. Jacob had grown up in the shadows of cypress trees, not in the glare of studio lights. The quiet, deliberate world of the swamp doesn't prepare you for the scrutiny of national attention. Suddenly, fans wanted to know everything: his beliefs, his private life, his parenting, his marriage. While the majority of the public reception was positive and supportive, fame inevitably brought its share of noise. Not all of it was kind. Social media gave fans a direct line to Jacob's life, and with it came unsolicited opinions, rumors, and criticisms, some rooted in misunderstanding, others in the harsh realities of public exposure. For someone who prized authenticity and privacy, navigating this newfound visibility wasn't easy. Behind the scenes, the realities of reality. While Swamp People sold itself as unfiltered and raw, behind the scenes, production realities told a more complicated story. Shooting a successful television show in the wild isn't as straightforward as following hunters with cameras. Weather delays, equipment failures, safety regulations, and continuity challenges often meant the crew had to halt real-time action to accommodate the demands of the medium. Jacob, never one to sugarcoat, has openly discussed these production quirks in interviews. While the hunts themselves are genuine and the threats very real, there were times when producers needed to reshoot a scene for better lighting, or recreate an event for viewers who might have missed a critical moment the first time around. For purists like Jacob and Troy, this was at odds with their core values. Still, the Landrys made it clear from the start: their story would not be scripted. The show could document their lives but not dictate them. And so, they worked closely with the production team to ensure the final product remained as faithful to real life as possible, without compromising safety or narrative flow. The result was a delicate balancing act, staying true to who they were while allowing just enough flexibility to create compelling television. Authenticity under pressure. For Jacob, that balance wasn't always comfortable. His love for the swamp, his deep respect for the hunting tradition, and his commitment to portraying it truthfully often clashed with the expectations of the entertainment world. And yet, he managed to hold his ground. He never allowed the cameras to change his rhythm. He didn't force emotions for the sake of drama or inject artificial intensity into moments that didn't need it. If a day was slow, the show reflected that. If a hunt was quiet, the silence stayed in. Because for Jacob, what mattered wasn't how many people were watching, it was whether what they were watching was real. The legacy he helped shape. In time, Jacob Landry became more than a supporting character on a reality series. He became a face of authenticity in a genre often dominated by exaggeration. He helped define Swamp People's tone: measured, grounded, respectful. He brought not only skills and strength to the screen, but heart and humility. His growth from son to co-leader, from deckhand to featured star, mirrored the very arc that made Swamp People resonate: the power of tradition, the value of patience, and the quiet dignity of those who live by the land. But while cameras could capture the hunts and highlight the danger, they could never fully encapsulate the inner compass that guided Jacob's every move, a compass forged in mud, sharpened by storms, and shaped by family. Public pressure, private principles. As Swamp People climbed in popularity and its reach expanded across television and streaming platforms, it inevitably drew both admiration and criticism. For Jacob Landry and his family, that spotlight came with responsibilities far beyond catching gators. While many fans celebrated the show for its authenticity and cultural insight, others, particularly animal rights advocates, raised red flags. Critics questioned the ethics of broadcasting alligator hunting as entertainment and wondered aloud whether some scenes were exaggerated or staged for dramatic effect. These concerns are common in reality television, where the line between documentation and performance is often blurred. But for Jacob, those criticisms struck a deeper chord. He had never set out to be an entertainer. He wasn't there for spectacle, he was there to do what his family had done for generations. And now, suddenly, he found himself in the unfamiliar position of defending not just his livelihood, but his entire way of life. Standing his ground with quiet conviction. Jacob responded with the same calm, no-nonsense demeanor that had earned him admiration on screen. In interviews and public forums, he made it clear what viewers saw on Swamp People was rooted in reality. Alligator hunting in Louisiana is not only legal, it's essential. Strictly regulated by the state, it serves an ecological purpose, maintaining balance within the marshland ecosystem. Overpopulation of gators can threaten other wildlife and even human safety. The Landry family, and many others in the region, participate in these hunts not for sport, but as stewards of their environment. Jacob has consistently emphasized that the show wasn't about glorifying violence or sensationalizing danger. It was about preserving a lifestyle, one built on respect, sustainability, and tradition. Their goal wasn't to shock, it was to share, and share they did, painstakingly, season after season. Through harsh storms, lean years, and shifting production pressures, Jacob stayed true to his values. He became, in the eyes of many, a quiet hero of the series, steady, principled, and deeply rooted in something more meaningful than fame. From hunter to cultural ambassador. As his role on the show evolved, so did his public profile. Jacob began to take on more off-screen responsibilities. Interviews, public appearances, promotional content. He wasn't just part of the cast. He was representing his family, his heritage, and an entire regional identity that had long been misunderstood or overlooked. But even as his reach grew, Jacob never lost touch with who he was. His demeanor didn't change. His priorities didn't shift. He remained the man who had learned to steer a boat before he could drive, who knew the rhythms of the bayou better than most people know their neighborhood streets. Fame was incidental. What mattered to Jacob was the integrity of the work and the legacy behind it. A window into southern Louisiana. Through Jacob's lens, Swamp People became more than just a show about catching alligators. It became a bridge between cultures, between urban viewers and rural realities, between assumptions and truths. The show offered millions a glimpse into the lives of people who make their living in one of the most challenging yet beautiful ecosystems in the country. And Jacob Landry was at the heart of that portrayal. He reminded viewers that the swamp wasn't just a backdrop for danger, it was a place of history, meaning, and deep-rooted pride. His on-screen journey mirrored the evolution of the series itself, from quiet beginnings to national recognition, all while maintaining a core of authenticity and purpose. Family at the center. As the seasons stretched on, the demands of filming increased. New cast members joined, production schedules tightened, viewer expectations climbed, and for Jacob, this meant reevaluating how much of his life he was willing to share. Hollywood gave him visibility, but not authorship. He wasn't offered the creative freedom to shape his own path, nor was he ever granted the kinds of lead roles that allow a martial arts star to build an enduring mythology. Despite the demand, the spark that once defined Tony Jaa's career began to fade, and with it, the promise of what might have been. The legacy, and the lingering what-if. There's no question, Tony Jaa changed the landscape of action cinema. When Ong-Bak exploded onto screens, it redefined what audiences expected from martial arts films. No wires, no stunt doubles, no CGI, just real danger, real pain, real movement. His style, feral, punishing, steeped in the brutal beauty of Muay Thai, challenged even veterans like Donnie Yen, who openly admitted that Tony's rise pushed him to elevate his own choreography. For a moment, Tony wasn't just a star. He was the movement, the future. He brought realism back to a genre drifting into fantasy. He reminded audiences what it meant to feel a punch, not just see it, and he inspired a generation of martial artists and filmmakers alike. But then came the legal traps, the crushing studio control, the premature burden of directing, and the spiritual retreat that stole precious momentum from a fast-moving industry. By the time he gained freedom from Sahamongkol in 2013, the moment had passed. The genre had shifted. The torch had quietly moved into other hands. The road not taken unlike Bruce Lee, who wrote his own philosophy into every frame. Unlike Jackie Chan, who crafted a persona of charm and chaos. Unlike Jet Li, who combined grace with gravity, Tony Jaa was never allowed to build a cinematic identity beyond his fists and feet. His characters lacked the depth to transcend the action. He rarely spoke. He was defined by what he could do, not who he was. In Ong-Bak, one of his most memorable lines was simply his name and the village he came from. In Tom Yum Goong, his mission revolved around recovering a stolen elephant. While Bruce Lee asked why we fight, Tony seemed more focused on how we fight, with devastating speed, yes, but without emotional connection. And in a global market that increasingly demands character-driven storytelling, that absence made it difficult for audiences to fully embrace him beyond admiration for his craft. A legacy. Set in motion. Still, his influence is undeniable. His fight sequences continue to be studied by choreographers and directors around the world. His dedication to realism, at the cost of his own body, set a new standard for what action cinema could look like without the gloss of effects. His stunts remain legendary. His timing, rhythm, and fearlessness inspire new generations. Tony Jaa's impact will endure. He may not have become the next Bruce Lee. He may never have built a franchise like Jackie Chan. He may not be the face of a streaming empire. But in many ways, he gave martial arts cinema something it desperately needed: authenticity. The final bow. What could have been? The question that lingers isn't about his skill or his passion. It's about what the industry didn't allow him to become. Had he been granted more creative control? Had Hollywood nurtured him with the same care it gave others? Had his career not been delayed by contracts and internal strife? Could he have been the next global icon? Could he have carried martial arts cinema into its next golden age? We'll never know. What we do know is that Tony Jaa didn't walk the same path fans once envisioned, but he left footprints that will never be erased. His journey was imperfect, painful, and in many ways unfinished, but his contribution, eternal. Your turn. What do you think? Did Tony Jaa deserve more from the industry that once hailed him as a savior? Was his journey a cautionary tale or a different kind of success? Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you were moved by this deep dive into the life and legacy of one of martial arts cinema's most electrifying figures, hit that like button. And if you love true stories about the heroes of action film, subscribe and turn on notifications because we're just getting started. Don't go anywhere. Up next, the unbelievable downfall of another martial arts legend you won't believe Hollywood forgot.